Your menu's too traditional, she spit, demanding the recipes I poured my soul into. She never saw the storm brewing inside me, the one she'd pay for. For 7 glorious years, that restaurant, Brierloft Beastro, was more than just walls and a kitchen. It was my heart, beating right there on the East Coast. I, Marcus, had taken it from this dusty, forgotten dine and nobody gave a second glance to, and I'd breathed life into it, transforming it into a place people talked about, a place they traveled to. Every dish that left my kitchen was a story, a whisper from my grandmother's sun-drenched kitchen back in Naples. She taught me that food wasn't about fancy tricks, it was about honesty, about soul. Marco, she'd say, her hands dusted with flour, cook what makes you feel, the people, they will feel it too. And they did. Oh, they did. This wasn't just a job for me. Odd, no. It was everything. It was my legacy unfolding one plate at a time, built on this bedrock of just being real. No smoke and mirrors, just pure, unadulterated flavor that wrapped around you like a hug. My staff, they weren't just employees. David, my sous chef, bless his loyal heart, he could read my mind across a busy service. Sarah, our pastry chef, her creations were pure magic, delicate and bold all at once. And Mark on the grill, steady as a rock. We were a well-oiled machine, sure, but more than that, we were tight. Like a family. I remember Mr. Peterson, the original owner, a kind, gentle man with eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He gave me my first real shot. The place needs heart, Marcus, he told me, his hand on my shoulder. I trust you to find it. And find it, I did. I poured every ounce of myself into Brierloft. The warm glow of the dining room, the murmur of happy conversations, the clinking of glasses, that was my symphony. Our regulars, people like Miss S. Gable who came every Friday night for the osso buco, they weren't just customers, they were part of the fabric of Brierloft, woven into its very essence. We knew their stories, their kids' names, their triumphs and their heartaches. They confided in me, share a laugh, sometimes even a tear. It was connection. Real, human connection. I'd walk through the dining room sometimes, just to feel it, that buzz of contentment. People weren't just eating, they were experiencing something. A taste of home, maybe. A memory jogged. A moment of pure, simple joy. That's what I lived for. My grandmother's pasta e fagioli, a recipe passed down generations, wasn't just soup, it was a warm blanket on a cold day. My seared scallops with that lemon butter sauce weren't just seafood, they were a taste of the Neapolitan coast. And then came Evelyn. Her vision, if you could even call it that, felt so sterile. So cold. All sharp edges and bottom lines. Where I saw family, she saw overhead. Where I saw art, she saw profit margins. Her words about my menu being too traditional still echoed in my head, a jarring, dissonant note in the beautiful music Brierloft had always made. It was like watching someone try to paint by numbers over a masterpiece, completely missing the soul, the vibrant, living thing I had nurtured for so long. That warmth, that authenticity I'd fought tooth and nail to build. It felt like it was about to be snuffed out by a chilly corporate wind. And a part of me, a deep, quiet part, knew this was just the beginning of the storm. It didn't take long for the other shoe to drop. Less than a month after I'd walked out of Brierloft, leaving behind those cold, clinical recipe printouts that felt like a betrayal in themselves, the whisper started. Evelyn, true to her word about modernizing, had brought someone in. Chef Bryce, they called him. Sounded like someone who'd garnish a burger with a tiny, inedible flour and call it innovation. I tried to shut it out, I really did. Told myself, it's not your problem anymore, Marcus. Let it go. She bought it, she can burn it to the ground for all you care. But it was like hearing someone was mistreating your kid. You couldn't care. I'd picture this Bryce character, probably some culinary school hotshot with more gel in his hair than sense in his head, staring at my grandmother's handwritten notes, the ones I'd reluctantly, stupidly, included bits of when Evelyn's lawyers got nasty about proprietary information. How could he possibly understand the smudge of olive oil next to the instructions for the Betrayal, a smudge left by her thumb 60 years ago? How could he taste the Naples sunshine in the way she said to char the peppers just so. He couldn't. It was impossible. It was like giving a chimp a Stradivarius. Then David showed up at my apartment. It was late, rain lashing against the windows, mirroring the storm that had been brewing in my gut for weeks. He looked wrecked. His usual easy smile was gone, replaced by this tight, angry line. His eyes, usually sparkling with that kitchen camaraderie we'd shared for so long, were just dull. Tired. Marcus, he said, his voice raspy. He didn't even wait for me to offer him a drink, just slumped onto my old couch. It's bad, real bad. A cold dread, sharp and familiar, snaked its way up my spine. What's happened, David? Is everyone okay? My mind immediately went to Sarah, to Mark. He shook his head, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. Physically, yeah, I guess, but Brierloft to Marcus, it's a train wreck. This Bryce, he's a disaster. He spat the name out like a tasted foul. He's trying to cook your food, man, from those asterisk notes asterisk Evelyn has, and it's an insult. I just stared at him, the rain drumming a bleak rhythm outside. An insult. Yeah, that felt about right. The also bucco? David continued, his voice rising, tinged with a disbelief that bordered on hysteria. It's tough as old boots. Marcus, the sauce is watery, lifeless, and the posse e fagioli, he's putting kale in it. Asterisk kale. The asterisk says it's for modern appeal. Hail. In my grandmother's sacred soup. A wave of nausea hit me, so strong I had to grip the back of a chair. It wasn't just about the food, was it? It was about the disrespect. The sheer and adulterated arrogance of it. The regulars. David's voice cracked then. They're noticing. Of course, they're noticing. Mrs. Gable came in last night, ordered her usual, took one bite of the scallops. Marcus, she didn't even complain, she just pushed the plate away, and her eyes, God, she looked so sad, like she'd lost an old friend. Mrs. Gable. My heart clenched. Mrs. Gable, who'd celebrated anniversaries and mourned losses over my food. Who told me my ossobuco reminded her of her own mother's cooking. To imagine her disappointment, her quiet sorrow, it was like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just business anymore. This was personal. This was Evelyn, with her cold calculations and her trend-chasing chef, systematically dismantling every beautiful, heartfelt thing I had ever built. She wasn't just running a restaurant into the ground, she was desecrating memories. She was erasing joy. David, I said, my own voice hoarse. What are you still doing there? He looked up, a flicker of the old fire back in his eyes. Waiting for you to tell me what to do next, chef. Mark and Sarah, they feel the same. We're holding on by a thread, but honestly, it's for you. We hoped maybe you'd come back. This it. The thought, for a fleeting, desperate second, was almost tempting. To storm back in, to reclaim what was mine, to banish the ghost of kale and watery sauces. But then Evelyn's smug face swam into my vision. Her dismissive words about my traditional menu. No. Going back wasn't an option. It would be admitting defeat, validating her somehow. But watching her butcher my life's work from afar, hearing about Mrs. Gable's sad eyes that lit a different kind of fire in me. Not this low burn of resentment I'd been nursing, but a hot, righteous anger. A determination. If Brierloft, my Brierloft, was truly dead, then its spirit, its soul, deserved to live on. My grandmother's legacy deserved to live on. An image flashed in my mind then, clear as day. My grandfather, Nonno Antonio. He'd had a little trattoria downtown, decades ago, before the neighborhood changed, before he got too old. It had been boarded up for years, a forgotten relic. But I remembered the stories. The smell of baking bread, the sound of his booming laugh. Real food. Real heart. David, I said, a new energy surging through me, pushing aside the despair. Evelyn wants trendy, she wants Instagrammable, fine, let her have her sterile little playground. I stood up, pacing now, the rain outside suddenly sounding like a drumbeat, a call to action. We're not going back, we're going to build something new, something asterisk, real asterisk. I looked at him, a fierce grin spreading across my face. How do you feel about old-school Italian, my friend, the kind Nonno would be proud of? I think I know just the place. His eyes widened, then slowly, a grin mirrored mine. The exhaustion seemed to fall away from him. Chef, he said, his voice full of hope. Lead the way. The call started about a week after David's visit, right when the scent of sawdust and fresh paint from Nonno Antonio's place was just starting to chase the Brierloft gloom from my head. Unknown number. I let it ring. Voicemail. Evelyn. Her voice, usually so crisp and condescending, was different. Seopi. Like cheap honey poured over something rotten. Marcus, darling, it could. It's Evelyn, just wondering how you are. Thought we might have a little chat about, well, Brierloft. Give me a call. Darling. My stomach churned. I deleted it. The next day, another call. This time, a hint of desperation laced the sugar. Marcus, it's Evelyn again. Look, things are a bit hectic. This relaunch, well, Chef Bryce is struggling a bit with some of your signature dishes. I was thinking maybe you could come in, just for a day or two, as a consultant. Name your price. Darling, seriously, asterisk any asterisk price. Any price. I almost laughed. The audacity. She thought she could just snap her fingers, wave a check, and I'd come running to fix a mess she'd made. To salvage the train wreck piloted by her gel-haired wonderkind. I pictured my grandmother's braciole. The one Bryce was probably turning into shoe leather, and a cold fury settled deep in my bones. This wasn't about money. It was never asterisk, just asterisk about money for me. It was about respect. About soul. Things Evelyn wouldn't understand if they bit her on her proto-clad backside. The calls kept coming. Each one a little more afraid, the sweetness curdling. She left messages offering sums that would have made my eyes water a year ago. Now, they just felt insulting. Each offer was a testament to her spectacular failure, a delicious, bitter little pill I swallowed with a grim sort of satisfaction. But it wasn't just satisfaction. It was fuel. Every desperate plea from her solidified my resolve. David, Sarah, Mark and I were down at Non-No's old place every spare minute, scrubbing, planning, dreaming. The thought of Mrs. Gable's sad eyes, that was my ghost pushing me forward, not back to Evelyn's gilded cage. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, as I was sketching out a menu on a piece of butcher paper, real food, Non-No Antonio's food that sang of sunshine and heart, there was a knock. Not a polite tap. A hard, insistent banging. My gut clenched. I knew even before I opened it. There she was. Evelyn. Rain clinging to her expensive cut, her perfectly styled hair looking deflated. Her eyes, usually sharp and assessing, were wide, almost wild. The mask was slipping. Marcus, she said, her voice tight, stripped of all its earlier fake warmth. She tried for a smile, but it was a grimace. Can I come in? I just looked at her, standing there on my worn welcome mat. The queen, dethroned and desperate, come to the peasant's hovel. Part of me, a part that still remembered the sting of her dismissal, wanted to slam the door in her face. But another part, a colder, more curious part, wanted to hear it. Wanted to see just how low she'd go. I stepped aside. She swept in, or tried to. It's hard to sweep into my tiny living room. She looked around, a flicker of distaste in her eyes before she masked it. Cozy, she muttered. What do you want, Evelyn? I kept my voice even, a hard one calm. She wrung her hands. This was new. Evelyn didn't asterisk do asterisk nervous gestures. The relaunch, it's not going well, Bryce. He's not you, Marcus. The critics are unkind. The customers... She trailed off, actual fear in her eyes. They hate it. Imagine that, I said deadpan. Her eyes flashed. Don't be like that. I made a mistake. Okay, I admit it. Brierloft needs you. Your touch. She practically spat the word touch like it was distasteful, even as she begged for it. My traditional menu, you mean? I couldn't resist. Her face tightened. Yes, fine, that. Look, Marcus, She took a deep breath, like she was about to dive into icy water. I'm prepared to offer you a significant stake in Brierloft, 20%, and full creative control, just to come back, fix it, please. 20%. Full control. A year ago, that would have been the dream. To own a piece of the place I'd built, to have the final say. My mind flashed to Mr. Peterson, his kind eyes, the way he trusted me. Then to Evelyn's cold pronouncements, her dismissal of everything he and I had stood for. The image of Mrs. Gable's disappointed face floated before me. I looked at Evelyn, really looked at her. At the desperation etched around her mouth, the panic in her eyes. She wasn't offering me a partnership. She was offering me a lifeboat because her ship was sinking fast, and she wanted me to bail her out to save her skin, her investment. She thought she could buy my soul back after trying to auction off pieces of it. A strange calmness settled over me. The anger was still there, a hot coal in my belly, but it was banked now, controlled. I knew what I had to do. Knew what I wanted to do. Evelyn, I said, and my voice was steady, resonant with a certainty that surprised even me. The Brierloft I knew, the one I loved, you already killed it. I saw the flicker of shock, then fury across her face. You can't fix what you've fundamentally broken. You don't understand what it was, so you can't bring it back. I gestured to the butcher paper on my coffee table, covered in my sprawling script, recipes for pastas and braises that smelled of home. I'm building something new, something real, something you could never understand, let alone own a piece of. I walked to the door and opened it. The rain was still coming down, a steady, cleansing rhythm. I think it's time for you to go. Her face, already pale, seemed to drain of all remaining color. Then, something snapped. The desperation in her eyes hardened into a cold, glittering malice I hadn't seen before, not even when she'd fired me. It was ugly. Bah. The queen wasn't just dethroned, she was cornered. And cornered animals bite. You think you can just walk away? She hissed, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You think you can just set up shop and humiliate me? I almost laughed. Humiliate you? Evelyn, you did that all by yourself. Though, Marcus, she said, a cruel little smile twisting her lips. You always were a bit naive, so focused on your precious soul and passion. Did you ever actually read the contract Mr. Peterson had you signed, the one I inherited? My blood ran cold. The contract. Of course. That fat stack of papers I'd skimmed, eager to get back to the kitchen, trusting Mr. Peterson implicitly. What had I missed? My mind scrambled, trying to recall the dense legalese. Evelyn saw the flicker of uncertainty in my eyes and pounced. Page 7, darling, paragraph 3, the non-compete clause. She savored each word like a drop of expensive, poisoned wine. You can't open a similar restaurant concept within a 5-mile radius of Brierloft for 2 years after termination. She practically purred the last words. And Nonno Antonio's little dream spot, last I checked, that's barely *2 miles away. The air punched out of my lungs. 5 miles. *2 years*. Nonno's place, it was everything. David, Sarah, Mark, Mrs. Gable's hopeful eyes, all of it hinging on that location. The scent of sawdust and paint, the dream sketched on butcher paper, they all turned to ash in my mouth. I felt sick. She had me. After all this, after her colossal screw-up, she still had a leash around my neck. You wouldn't, I managed, but my voice was hollow. Her smile widened. It was terrifying. Oh, I would, Marcus. I absolutely would. Try me. Open your doors, and my lawyers will be on you so fast your head will spin. I'll tie you up in court until that little inheritance of yours is nothing but dust. She took a step closer, her eyes blazing. You ruined my relaunch. You think I'll let you build your success on my ashes? Think again. She was gone as quickly as she'd appeared, leaving behind the faint, cloying scent of her expensive perfume and the suffocating weight of her thread. The rain outside seemed to mock me, each drop a tiny hammer blow against my collapsing hopes. I sank onto my worn couch, the butcher paper with my menu falling to the floor. It was over. She'd won. All that righteous anger, that quiet satisfaction, it was all for nothing. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone. Paul. My cousin Paul, the lawyer. He was a bulldog, but this felt insurmountable. Marcus, what's up? You sound like you've seen a ghost. Worse, Paul, I said, my voice cracking. I think Evelyn just buried me. I explained, the words tumbling out, a torrent of despair. He listened patiently, asked a few sharp questions about the wording. Similar restaurant concept, he repeated thoughtfully. Fax me that contract, Marcus, let me see the exact language. An hour later, an eternity of pacing and staring out at the relentless rain, my phone buzzed. Paul. Okay, I've got it, he said, and there was something in his voice, not defeat. A thoughtful hum. It's tight, Marcus, she's got you on the proximity, no doubt, but similar restaurant concept, that's the wiggle room. Wiggle room, Paul, Brierloft was my food, my style, what I'm planning for none knows it's the same heart. Is it though? He pressed. Brierloft, under you, was high-end American bistro with Italian influences. Right? Sophisticated. Modern twist on classics. What were you exactly planning for Nonno Antonio's? I thought about the butcher paper, the recipes I'd been sketching. Nonno Amelia's lasagna, the slow-cooked ragu, the hand-rolled knocket, the food of my childhood, the true, unadulterated taste of Naples. Pure, old-school Italian, I said slowly. The stuff Nonno and Nonno brought over, no fusion, no fancy deconstructions, just soul food, their soul food. There was a pause. Then Paul said, his voice suddenly charged with excitement, Marcus, that's it. That's not similar that's distinct asterisk. We argue that Brierloft was contemporary American. What you're proposing is a dedicated, traditional ethnic restaurant. It's a different category, a different market appeal. She wants to play dirty, we can play smart. A tiny spark ignited in the darkness. Old school Italian. The very heart of what Nonno Antonio's place was meant to be. Could it be that simple? Could her own vindictiveness have handed me the key? Paul's words echoed in my head, a lifeline in a stormy sea. Distinct asterisk. It was more than just a legal strategy, it was the truth. This wasn't about outsmarting Evelyn, it was about embracing the very soul of my cooking, the legacy Nonno Antonio had passed down. So we forged ahead. While Evelyn's lawyers probably sharpened their knives, we were sharpening ours in a different way in the kitchen of what would soon be Cole's table. The name felt right, simple, a nod to my family name, a place where everyone was welcome. We painted, we scrubbed, we filled the air with the simmering promise of tomato sauce and roasting garlic, not the ghosts of Brierloft's confused menu. David, Sarah, and Mark were there every step, their faith a quiet hamlet drowned out my lingering fears. Opening night, man, it was like a dream. The scent of Nonno Amelia's lasagna, bubbling in the ovens, thicker and richer than anything I'd ever dared serve at Brierloft. The rustic charm of the place, so different from Brierloft's sleek, modern shell. And the people, Mrs. Gable was there, her eye shining as she took her first bite of gnocchi, the exact recipe Nonno had taught me. Marcus, dear, she said, her voice thick with emotion, this is like coming home. Lines formed down the block, old faces from Brierloft mixed with curious locals, all drawn by the promise of something real. Meanwhile, the news from Brierloft was a slow-motion train wreck. The critics, once my champions, were absolutely savaging Chef Bryce's attempts to mimic my old style, then his even more disastrous attempts to follow Evelyn's scattershot demands for viral dishes. One review called it a culinary identity crisis served on a cold plate. Ouch. Evelyn, in her desperation, kept trying to rebrand. Brierloft went from New American to global fusion to something vaguely Pan-Asian inspired in the span of a few months. Each shift just made it more unrecognizable, a pale imitation of, well, nothing, really. And with every desperate pivot, her restaurant became less and less similar to my traditional Italian haven. Paul just chuckled when I told him. She's doing our work for us, Marcus. Her lawyers can send all the threatening letters they want. What judge is going to look at her chaotic mess and say it's the same as your nana's meatballs? He was right. The letters came full of bluster and threats of injunctions. But they were truthless. Evelyn's own frantic changes had undermined her claim. Her empire, built on the bones of Mr. Peterson's kindness and my hard work, was crumbling under the weight of her own arrogance. Then the day came. I saw it online first, Brierloft Beastro, closed indefinitely. My heart didn't leap with vengeful joy like I might have expected months ago. Instead, there was just a quiet finality. It was over. She'd lost. Not because I had set out to destroy her, but because she destroyed herself. She chased trends, I chased authenticity. She craved control, I craved connection. A few weeks later, on a busy Saturday night at Cole's table, I saw her. Evelyn. Standing across the street, half hidden in the shadows, just watching. The restaurant was buzzing, light and laughter spilling onto the sidewalk. She wasn't wearing her usual power suits, just a simple dark coat. There was no malice in her gaze this time, just emptiness. She looked at the warm glow of my restaurant, at the happy faces through the window, for a long, long time. Then, she just turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. No drama, no final confrontation. Just a silent admission. I stood there by the window, watching where she'd been. I thought back to that awful day she'd fired me, the cold glitter in her eyes, the venom in her voice. I'd been so consumed by anger, by the injustice. Then the fear, when she dropped that non-compete bomb. It had felt like the end. Asterisk she buried me, asterisk I told Paul. But she hadn't. She just forced me to dig deeper, to find something truer. Brierloft, as much as I loved what I'd built there, had still been, in part, Mr. Peterson's vision. Cole's table, this was all me. All no and all. All heart. Evelyn, in her blind ambition, had inadvertently pushed me toward my own, more authentic destiny. The rage was gone now, replaced by a profound sense of peace. I wasn't naive anymore, not like she'd said. I'd learned that the world could be brutal, that contracts had teeth. But I'd also learned that passion, genuine passion, had a power all its own. It wasn't about humiliating her or proving her wrong. It was about proving myself right, proving that good food, honest food, food made with love, would always find its way. And as I turned back to the warmth and chaos of my kitchen, to David pulling a perfect pizza from the oven and Sarah garnishing a cannoli with a flourish, I knew. This wasn't revenge. This was resurrection. My resurrection. And it tasted unbelievably sweet. A year ticked by. Standing there, in the heart of Nano Antonio's place now, my asterisk place, bigger, buzzing, alive again, it all hit me. Dad and I, we were good. Really good. The first time in forever. He'd even handed me the old iron key to the family vineyard back home, a place I thought was lost to us, a piece of our soul returned. And I realized, watching the family sharing pasta, the laughter echoing off these old brick walls, I hadn't chased revenge. I just chased what was real, what mattered. Even she became a ghost in her own story, a footnote. But me? I was just getting started. The real win, man, it isn't about watching someone else fall. It's about building something that comes straight from your gut, from your heart. Something asterisk, true asterisk. Because that fire, that genuine passion, it'll always burn brighter and longer than any empty, cold ambition. Always. This wasn't just a restaurant anymore. This was everything.